might as well get started, seeing as there are so many people here and I don't want to leave you all waiting. So my name's Nanci. Welcome to our Neyyah Q&A panel. I'll be moderating the session. If you don't already know, Neyyah is a point-and-click adventure game in the style of Legends of the genre like Mist and Ribbon. And it is supported by Square Australia, published by Microprose, and will be available to purchase in the very near future, so feel free to wishlist it if it's the kind of thing you like. So here with us from the UK by video link is Aaron. Hopefully he stays there the whole time. He's the creator of Neyyah. We also have at the end Nigel Goodwin, who plays Vamir. You might recognise him from the game trailer if you've seen that at all. This is Dann Tozer, the voice actor behind the mysterious warrior Hayyen, and Zaedyn Turner in the middle, who composed quite a lot of Neyya's soundtrack, recorded and edited all the actors' voiceover tracks, and assisted with some 3D modelling. He also appears as a character in the game. For myself, I've been part of the Neyyah team for a number of years, fulfilling roles spanning communications, project development, creative support, and I also play one of the characters. So in a moment, Aaron is going to take us on a Neyyah-themed journey, and then we will open up the floor for all your many, many audience questions. But first, I'd like to just take a few minutes to give everyone a little bit of context about the people that are here with us today before Aaron goes into his journey. So I thought we'd start with Nigel, if that's okay.
Yes.
So Nigel, how did you get into acting, and did you think you would ever be in a video game one day?
Oh, very short answer to the second part. I had no inkling whatsoever I'd ever take part in a video game. It wasn't even on my radar when I first started. I started acting when I lived back in the UK, so this was about 12 years ago now. And a brochure came through the letterbox from the local council advertising some adult learning classes. And there was a whole long string of them, and one of them was for acting. And I thought, oh, well, I'll give that a go. It sounds like fun. So I joined this acting class, and I got along really well with it. Had a great time. The tutor was a lot of fun, and tutor was crazy into Shakespeare and all kinds of wonderful acting stuff. And after a few months of this, the tutor said, I've written a play, and I want you guys to be in it. So I didn't even have to audition for my first acting role. I was just put in it, which was nice. We had a wonderful time doing this play, a kind of Shakespearean Elizabethan type historical play. And then we formed a spin-off group from that and did another play, Dr. Faustus, and then we did another play and another play. And then I started hanging out with some filmmakers as well, and got myself into film acting. So I was doing both theatre and film back in the UK. And then I moved over here to Australia in 2018, carried on doing more of the same in Perth. Perth is a very, very supportive network of acting actors and acting community. So I started going to a lot of networking events. Turned up at a networking event down in Mandurah where I met Nanci. And Nanci said, are you interested in possibly acting in a video game? And I thought, wow, I've never done this before. I'm up for this, I'll give it a go. So yeah, I jumped in, and the next thing I knew, I was playing Vamir in the Neyyah game.
Yes, honestly, okay, I have to admit, the second I met Nigel, I thought, he's Vamir. And then I called Aaron, and I was like, Aaron, I met Vamir. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. So reflecting on your portrayal of Vamir, is there anything that you think stands out to you about the character, or what you infused into the character, or what stands out to you about Vamir?
Well, Vamir is the head scientist in the on Ulujay, which is part of the Neyyah world. And funnily enough, I was actually a science student myself back in the day, so it's no surprise that you immediately saw me as Vamir, because I do actually have a science background originally. So on playing Vamir, I became acutely aware of just how what a sense of urgency Vamir has. Neyyah is in crisis at the point when the game starts. My character greets the player with basically, thank goodness you're here, we need your help. And yeah, so I just enjoyed carrying that sense of urgency all through my performance. We are in trouble, we need help. And Vamir is the kind of character who, he's not used to things going wrong. He's normally in control of everything, but now that things have gone wrong, he will jump on any bit of help he can get in order to fix these problems. So I just loved that sense of nervousness and sense of urgency that Vamir had.
And you do it so well as well, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So moving on to Zaedyn. Zaedyn's biggest contribution to Neyyah, among a few other things, is music for the soundtrack. So I was thinking, Zaedyn, maybe you could tell us how many songs you composed for the soundtrack, and also on a scale of 1, actually no, start with this, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is music to video games, and why?
I'd say like 8 or 9 on the scale, because it can really help like the whole vibe of video game, or any piece of media for that matter. And I didn't put it at 10 because you can make a game fully function without it, but it is still pretty much essential to the process of a video game.
And how many songs did you make for the Neyyah original soundtrack?
I think about 39 in total.
Jesus. How long did that take from start to finish?
Well, it started a few years ago, and the amount of tracks that I did just kept building up until before I knew it, I had 39 tracks.
And yeah, you'll get to hear them in the game. So the game has a combination of music composed by Zaedyn and also music composed by Aurian that serve very different purposes and create very different tones. So it's very cool to have that amalgamation of different styles, and that might be something Aurian will talk about as well. But just before we get to Aurian, Dan, can you tell us a bit about your approach to voicing your character, Hayyen?
Yeah, sure. So, basically, the way I saw it, because there's no like visual representation of the character, we see Hayyen by reading his journal. That's how we hear about him. So I just kind of try and work out how to portray like that war-torn warrior, and how they would sound, kind of thing. So, you know, because I figured he'd seen some stuff, you know, and he's strong but not aggressive, and just factoring things that could affect vocal cords or like the environmental or like chemical elements that he's experienced as a character, and just, you know, hearing that audibly, as opposed to, you know, not actually getting to see the visual and costume representation of the other characters. Yeah.
So do you want to expand on that a little bit and maybe touch on some tips and tricks that other people could incorporate into voice acting if that's something they're interested in?
Yeah, so with something like this, I guess, because it's with a script, so there's no like back and forth with any other characters. You're kind of, you know, you're on your own in a sense there. So I kind of tried to keep the character reasonably similar to my speaking voice for like consistency reasons, and basically just adding some slight vocal changes to make it feel like a character. But yeah, because it's a voice from their journal, it's like their inner monologue, or the way they would view their words in their journal, like looking back on their kind of memories and thoughts. I just tried to do it as, you know, how they would hear themselves in their own minds. And I guess a little tip I thought, at least for something like this, is starting with your natural voice, because you might be surprised how much your individual voice has to offer, and then going from there and kind of expanding and changing it a bit from there, and building, and then just experimenting and practicing and recording and listening back, and yeah.
So for context, all the other characters in the game appear both on screen, and you know, you hear them, you see them, it's like the talking. Dan is the only person whose character is only heard and never seen. And this is unplanned, and I haven't given you a heads up, and you can say no, but do you want to throw a line at us in your...
Well, I'm sure you'll hear it you might hear it a little bit later.
Okay. Alright, so finally, Aaron, are you ready to take us on a journey?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready. So, yeah, basically, Neyyah has been a 7-year project, nearly 7 years, in July. It's a first-person point-and-click adventure adventure puzzle game. Very much inspired by Missing Ribbon, as mentioned already by Nanci. Basically, you were sent into Neyyah without any clue as to why you were being sent there, who you are, other than the fact that this guy called Vamir, who sent you to Neyyah, calls you the Old One. So you have that to go by. But apart from that, really going into Neyyah, you're kind of completely lost, and it's up to you to work out what's really happening and basically trying to get back to find out where Vamir is. And in doing so, you have to use journals, find notes, and uncover Vamir's research that he's been conducting on Neyyah. And in doing so, making some startling discoveries as well along the way. So it's very much world first and puzzles after. That was kind of the direction I went with Neyyah, which is interesting because I think, you know, having a lack of gaming experience, like I have played games in the past, obviously, but I'm not the big, you know, full-on kind of gamer. And so, excuse the mic past there. So yeah, basically, I think that was kind of a benefit in some way, because it takes a different turn for the game. It makes it kind of unique in a way. But then along the way, there was a lot of kind of gaming stuff that I took on as well, and had to sort of like put into the game to make it kind of work in different ways. So yeah, again, with the inspiration, I think one of the big things, a 7-year project, you know, that's a long time to be on a project. That's a very long time. And I think where I started the game and where I'm sort of finishing it now, you know, there's a lot of things that I've learned, but also having designed as well. And so that's kind of a benefit going into future projects, because then I can take what I have there and then use it in other games as well, and other projects, or anything that I do creatively, which is quite cool. Again, with the inspirations, being inspired by Mr. Ribbon, games such as that, and even films like Waterworld, you know, those kind of rustic, kind of weathered kind of environments have been a big inspiration for sure. I'll be able to speak a bit more about the inspiration in terms of like the world that you're in a bit over this presentation as well. So a big thing obviously with Neyyah is the world building. That's the huge core of what really Neyyah is. It's about the world. That's the kind of reason why I went into it. I wanted to develop a world, design a world that people could explore. And I'll just give some tips. I'll break it down to a few different tips that you can use that might be useful for you in developing your own worlds, whether that be in film or games or anything. So I think first of all, sketching before you're modeling. The big thing I did with Neyyah is I used a lot of sketchbooks. I actually have a couple down here that I prepared earlier. This one here was the first Neyyah book that I actually started. And Nanci will know a bit of the story behind this as well. This was a book that basically represents how Neyyah began when I started using Blender. And I used the donut tutorial to kind of like learn how to use Blender. Neyyah basically was pushed because at the time, when I found out about Blender, I was like, this is the software I need to use to create all the 3D artwork and everything. And the tutorials on the internet, there were a lot like donut tutorials and everything, and how to make a donut basically. So yeah, kind of represents the beginning of Neyyah. But this book actually is full of various different notes. I'm trying to give anything away here, but a lot of this is quite old stuff as well. Some of it didn't even make it into the actual game itself. But you can see here there's a lot of sketches and a lot of notes, actually a lot of writing in this particular book. I think it's because there was a lot of ideas, a lot of puzzle ideas and everything like that, and story that was going into it. And then later on, I think there's about 9 different sketchbooks like this. This particular book here is from Cornwall, down at Tintagel Castle. And I love the journal kind of design of it. But in this one here, you've got a few more sort of sketches. I think I like the tinier kind of books in the end. Just showing various different things, mainly looking at like what structures are going to be in the game, but what textures, what materials are going to be used. So I'll go into a lot of detail there. But then obviously in Blender, everything changes anyway. So you end up with kind of changing a lot of the environment, a lot of the ideas that you come up with. I'll actually share screen what I've got here. A few of the things that I designed originally for the creatures for the game. So this is kind of a cool example of one of the creatures in the game, the Palaf toad, which appears a few times. I've actually gotten to the point where I've managed to include quite a few creatures into the game, which is really nice. But you can see here, just looking at the details of like what should be included, the eye shapes, the texture, and the color of the creature. So basically I just keep it fairly simple. But these actually go over to Microprose, a small art team that basically take my ideas, my concepts, and then bring them into full 3D.
Except for the ones that Zaedyn did.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, Zaedyn did some of the insects that appear in the game as well. I wish I'd had actually more insects in the game at one point. I think there was going to be dragonflies, butterflies, and everything. But the main focus was kind of like keeping to those kind of sort of like the sort of creatures. This is an example of the actual sketch being turned into 3D. So you've got here the actual 3D model textured, the shaders have been included. And this is done by Microprose, which is really cool. And they did a fantastic job of just bringing this sketch, into 3D, which was amazing. And that's something I don't really delve into much myself. So that was a really cool process, kind of learning a bit about that as well.
You got any of Zaedyn's ones on hand, or is that too divergent from what you're?
I haven't on hand at the moment. Yeah. I've got here another example of one of the scenes. If it wants to load, it's just taking a little while. There you go. So I'm going to show you a scene from the game in a minute, but this is kind of like a concept where the actual toad jumps, and I had to show the direction of the animation of where the creature is going. So I take the drawings and I kind of crop them out and put them into the 3D scene, and then create like an example of where it should be going, which was quite fun. This is the actual scene from the game, so this should play quite nicely. Awesome. So yeah, that's a cool example there. That's a cool example there of the leaf toad, which is really cool. I think another thing as well, like what Zaedyn was saying with regards to music, it's the same as sound design. The sound really enriches the visual. So you watch these animations back of elevators or creatures, they're quite kind of flat without the sound, but then you add the sound to them, or even music as well, it really kind of brings them out and brings them to life, obviously. That's also a really fun kind of process to go through as well. So another one is exploring real places. So kind of Neyyah is an inspiration from both Australia and England. There's a lot of different places here in England that I've explored that I really love the look of, like weathered, derelict kind of places, like places that have been in ruin for quite a while, but then mixing that with kind of more recent technology or buildings that are, a lot more modern, and sort of combining them together. So that was one of the big things with Neyyah, particularly like rusted metal, rock that has a lot of moss on it, or kind of weathered materials, basically. I always find that brings a lot of realism to the scene as well. So one of the things I'd love to show you now, go back to the old share screen. There you go. Okay, is couple of scenes that show the real world coming into Neyyah. So this is a kind of a cool example. So this is quite local to where I live. This is one of my sort of country walks that I used to go on a lot more often, and it shows one of the buildings that I used to go past. And at the time I just thought, wow, it's so simple and so, kind of like, you're not really, it's just a building, right? But when you're creating environments, and this is something I realized when I was a teenager getting into 3D design, is that you start looking at everything in a completely different way. You start looking at, you know, how would you model that in 3D? How would you model this building or this object in 3D? You start seeing everything like in mesh form almost. It's really crazy. So it's the kind of same thing with kind of texture as well, and palettes and color palettes. So this is a cool example of just a door that I saw, like barn area, and you can see the similarities between what I did with Neyyah, bringing this into the environment, the long sort of hinges and everything, the brickwork and the wood together. I really like that. But then just adding a kind of like a Neyyah touch of things really breaking away, exposing what's behind. So that was a really cool example there. Also got another example here of the similar building with the roof, kind of taking that same kind of metal and using, well, bringing models that would be more relevant to Neyyah in context with this world, which was really fun as well. As you can see here, even that little bit there, it's kind of just expanded a bit more, which is quite cool. And then another building that was quite close to it, like a barn. I had no idea really what it was used for, but I loved the look of it and the rust on it and everything. I thought that would be really cool to use for this building, the paint factory. And actually this building here is actually a combination of what you just saw and this combined. So you can see kind of all the structures just combined together there. And with Australia as well, it's definitely the water look, the look of the water and the palm trees and the foliage and the fact that you feel like there's a heat out there when you're exploring Neyyah. That was kind of like just the brightness and everything and the color of everything. Even though everything's kind of weathered down and like desaturated, which I really love. I love the look of sort of desaturated materials. Another big one for me was the Martello Tower down here in Felixstowe. You get them a lot in kind of the Suffolk coast here in England. Big inspiration for this building here, Pennovia Point in the game. So you can see the windows, the structure and everything. I really liked the look of the building as well, the materials, but then bringing the Neyyah context again, the language of the game and the story into the building and then making it my own, which was very important as well. It's quite an important part of the world building process. Another one is the binoculars as well, that you kind of get down sort of the coastal areas here. And you can see the similarities there with the binoculars in the real world, and then some binoculars you find in the game as well, which is really cool. So yeah, that's kind of exploring real places and then bringing them into the actual game world as well. A big one for Neyyah is sound design, as mentioned before. So sound really brings richness to the visuals. You know, I think you can have something very simple, but if you have some really nice sounds behind it, it can really kind of bring out so much more. And you know, one sound for a door or a gate opening might consist of 25 to 30 different tracks playing all at the same time. So it's quite a fun process. It's like recording music, but in sound form. And I always find it actually in some way kind of a bit more fun because you're just using some weird sounds and, you know, putting them all together, which is quite cool. Audacity is a really good software to use if you want to get into sort of sound design. It's free as well. I use Sonar Cakewalk. I've used Cubase before as well, and that's kind of going into the sort of music elements as well. Freesound.org is great for free sounds. While some of the sounds are recorded for Neyyah, there are also a lot of sounds that have been used from freesound.org. They're credited in the game as well, obviously. You know, some nice gems out there, but you can take the sound and then just edit them yourselves anyway. So one of the guys I'd love to show you is Movo, this little fella here. He's been on the journey with Neyyah for quite a while, since 2023, I think. So yeah, he's the recording buddy, my recording assistant, and he's been to Australia, he's been around Hong Kong, Cornwall, even Scotland and England as well. So he's been around recording a lot of things from Neyyah. It's really cool. I've also got a little snippet here that I'd love to show you of myself with a guy called Adventure Game Geek. So yeah, this was me and Adventure Game Geek. Definitely check his channel out. This guy does some great stuff with various adventure games from Monkey Island to Myst and to Neyyah as well. So he's really into Neyyah. But yeah, definitely check his channel out. He's got some great reviews. He's been doing it for a good while. He's a great guy to hang out with. This is me and Adventure Game Geek. Recording some waves, placed in Shingle Street. Very making a little appearance there as well. I'll just fast forward now to another clip about, where was it? So you should be able to hear this as well.
No, I think we've.
Nope.
I don't think it's just quite.
So this is basically just recording some debris, debris sounds like falling, and then he lost the sunnies at that point. It's quite cool just exploring these old buildings and these old bunkers. So it could be the most subtle sounds, but it depends on how you kind of use them. So you get a cool example there of, like, you know, obviously the metal there really helped out as well with the ladder.
Aaron, I don't mean to interrupt. We're running a little bit over time, but I know that a lot of what you've got prepared to come next will also be really great for the world building panel that we've got coming next. So did you want to move to the video and then we'll get into some audience questions? And then save the rest of that for the next panel. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Okie dokie. So, moving on to a video that I've put together recently. This basically goes to show kind of what Neyyah is all about. Thanks guys for listening in on this as well. And yeah, definitely go and check out Neyyah on Steam. Wishlist the game, comes out very soon. And yeah, looking forward to finally releasing this world to the world. So here we go. I'll quickly share the screen again. Make sure that's ticked. And away we go. Okay.
Neyyah. Nearly 7 years in the making. A gateway awaits you, luring you into an intriguing, mysterious world. That's exactly what Neyyah is. Take your time, explore down various paths that await you in this non-linear journey. Piece together your discoveries and make sense of what's around you. What is useful? Remains of a lost world. While Neyyah is full of puzzles, ultimately, it is a world waiting to be discovered and explored.
So, I heard Mason went through the portal and blew himself up, or with the Jaloud. Why would he do that? Such a waste. You must return to Ulaji. The portal that brought you to the lab will take you to the other.
Vamir! My old friend. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I assume you're down there on Nyaska Site 28? Working hard, I hope. Looking at recent deliveries from other Nyaska sites, I'd say some serious competition is coming your way.
Sorry, gotta go. Sorry about that. Someone fell off the roof. And it's fine. He wants to make an orange paella, just like you. I told him I'd send you his sketches. So
It's been a long day spent overseeing ammunition storage at Lariti. The 2 young soldiers who were stationed there today, Malik and Tala, give me such hope and joy, demonstrating how proficient and organized our guard here on the Blue Philidian can be.
You must find the secret portal.
Resurrect a dying past. Realize your destiny. Two torches, one truth.
Awesome.
Cool.
Cheers,
Cheers, guys.
So it occurred to me watching that I mean, everyone knows 7 years is a long time, but all those scenes were shot pretty late into the journey, and yet you can see from that little kid that fell off the roof is Zaedyn. But so you can kind of see as he's even just in not even the whole span of Neyyah gone from this little kid to this like it just kind of is really beautiful looking back on that. And so the journal, you could hear Dan's voice there, and obviously Vamir, Nigel did a really great job of that. And yeah, so Aaron, that video is really great. It kind of showcases different elements of Neyyah. And is there anything
I think that's
else?
what's beautiful. Sorry, Nanci. I think that's what's beautiful about the game being such a long project, is that you kind of capture like lightning in a bottle kind of thing. It's like this long journey of like so many different things, and you, like you said, you're just reminiscing on so many different things there. I think it's just, it's one of the beautiful things about Neyyah.
Definitely. So before we pass over to audience questions, is there any final word you would like to say?
No, I mean, that's fine, yeah. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has, or if anyone else wants to answer any questions.
So now that you all have a bit more context, does anyone have any questions for Aaron, Nigel, Zaedyn, or Dan about game development, voice acting, music, sound design, rabbits, anything at all?
Toads.
Especially toads.
Especially toads.
Yeah.
Only available on the one operating system.
Yep. Thanks, Brandon.
Is it?
Yep.
You mentioned that you're not much of a gamer. What made you go, actually, I'm going to work on this really complicated game?
So the question is, I'm not much of a gamer, but why make such a complicated game?
Why make a game?
So good question. I think it's mainly it seems so complicated because it seems so big, and I think the draw for me was the world building. So it was about designing a world that you could really explore and have an adventure within, rather than the complexity of a game where you're coding really complex systems to do things. The programming for Neyyah is actually really simple stuff. It's kind of, I see it as like on and on switches kind of thing. You're kind of turning on states here and there to enable the player to progress forward. So the complexity is more in the actual kind of the environments that you're exploring and the world that you're uncovering and the things that you come across and the devices and stuff. But you're right, it's quite complex.
Also, Aaron's dream since a kid was to make video games, so that was part of it as well. And when he was transitioning away from his music career, we spoke a lot about how the importance of following your passions and immersing yourself in those things, not as a means to an end, but as the end itself. And so, that's probably something Aaron could talk for hours about as well.
I definitely could. Yeah, definitely.
Brendan, you have a question?
So this is for the people who've acted in it. What is the biggest difference between like screen acting, let's pick that type, screen acting or voice acting for like animation versus voice acting for video game or acting for video game?
I wasn't so familiar with acting, talking straight into camera, because normally when you're film acting, you're told to not look at the camera, of course. So, but because I'm talking directly to the player, Yeah, that's takes a little bit of getting your head around because I'm not so familiar with that. But I loved it. It was so much fun. It added an extra dimension to my acting skill set. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, you did a great job, Nigel.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I guess with voice acting, I mean, with this, in this particular circumstance, there's no lip syncing or anything, of course. So in that way, you're just hearing this voice read from a journal, Yeah, so that's definitely one aspect that's very different. And I think also just, other than the bits and pieces I would have got explained to me about the character, I think even reading through the script of the journal gave me the idea of who that character is, and I based it on that too. So I'm like, okay, they've been to battle, okay, they handled the ammunition storage there. Oh, these are the other characters that they've interacted with, that they have relationships with, that they're protected, that they're fought for, and just those bits, that was kind of fun. But yeah, I'd say in this case, yeah, there's definitely differences where you don't have to worry about lip syncing and things like that.
So Zaedyn, you've been in a few films and you've done a couple of plays. What would you think the biggest differences for you?
I don't know. I don't have too much experience with the acting field itself, so I don't really have much to say.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions?
So it's more on the so you haven't as much acting sense on the music design side. So where does the inspiration come for like you said, you made 39 tracks, right? That's a lot of songs to have made up. What's the video?
Everyone's disappeared.
That's okay. We
Can you still hear us?
You can still hear us, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does the inspiration come, and sort of what genres do you like working within when you're creating music?
Zaydyn, do you want to go first on this one?
I feel like, because with all the tracks, Aaron gave me a bit of information on the areas and sort of what the areas mean and the type of genre to make for that area, and that helps me a lot with actually designing the music itself. Yeah, and the type of genre I usually do, it's not necessarily Neyyah, but it was very cool getting to explore other genres of music.
So what genre would you mean? Aaron, do you have an answer for that one?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the cool things with Neyyah as well is just being able to collaborate with Zaydyn, because while I was able to kind of direct and have a vision for what the music was going to be, ultimately Zaydyn kind of brought his own kind of flavour of palette of musical knowledge and different kind of vibe and everything, which is really cool, and it really kind of gelled with certain locations as well in the game, from exterior to interior. I mean, for me, I think it's definitely down to kind of listening to the Riven soundtrack, for example, which was the sequel to Myst, Robin Miller's music, Vangelis, Blade Runner, Tangerine Dream, particularly the Legends soundtrack. So there was a lot of kind of influence there. But then as I recorded the music, there was a lot of people saying it sounds like Broken Sword music, which was another point-and-click adventure game. And just using keyboards was really fun for me, just being able to create the sound of the world through different tones and everything. So yeah, it's been a really good process. I think in total there's about 74 tracks in total for Neyya's soundtrack OST. So yeah, it's quite a lot of music.
And lots of beyond the music tracks, lots of sound elements, right? Different all the little sound bits you've recorded.
And lots of sound design as well, in case you couldn't hear that.
The sound design elements.
Yeah. I was saying just all the pieces you were saying that you've recorded to add additional ambiance and reality to the background of the world.
Definitely. I think one of the cool things with that is creating sounds that you can't see. So when I was, working with gates opening, and this is what I really love, this is the whole world building stuff. When you're opening a particular door, maybe not so much a door, but like a big gate or something, you kind of wonder what's happening inside the wall, or what's happening inside the machinery that you can't see that's activating that door. So you then create sounds for it, and that's what really breathes life into something and makes it bigger. The same with like bird sounds. You might be in a sort of like a jungle kind of area with a load of trees. You might not see the birds, but there are birds around you, and you can hear them. So this brings a whole new kind of dimension to, especially with a static screen-to-screen style like Neyyah. That really does help. But yeah, sound design is really fun, very fun.
All right, we probably have time for one more question if anyone has anything to say.
No one else?
Yep.
So you almost answered it just then. But when you were doing the sound design for like the animals, like that toad, did you have any specific animal in mind? You're like, actually, this is banjo frog or something. I'm going to record that one to get it. Or how did you choose what animals to use?
Yeah, that was a hard one because I didn't really. I think the animal sounds are from freesound.org. There's various sounds you can find on there, and then basically I kind of I take the animation, especially like a creature, for example. I take the animation, I bring that into the music recording software where I do the sound as well, and then basically I start looking at where the sounds should come in, and I might pitch shift certain sounds to make them feel a bit deeper in sound or higher, bring them out a little bit more, and then I just cut where they should be. So you got the little kind of like frog sounds, the chirping, then you've got the jump sound, and then you've got the kind of like burp sound he makes as he sort of looks back at the player and then hops over the rock. So it's quite fun kind of coming up with those, but then yeah, it's a weird thing. It's like you kind of just hope for the best, see what you can find, and then luckily most of the time it works out quite quickly. Yeah, it's experimenting.
Well, on that note, I think we're out of time. So thank you so much to Aurian, Nigel, Dan and Zaedyn for speaking today. Thanks to everyone here for taking time to come and listen to us ramble. And a huge thank you to SwanCon for having us here today and setting everything up and being awesome.
Thank you,
everyone.
Yeah, thank you.